So, not content with turning town signs upside down, the farmers' protest escalated. It was quite alarming to see smoke plumes weaving across the sky and tractors blocking major roads, leaving motorways devoid of traffic. Things have calmed down, thankfully. Our move to France came earlier than anticipated when this little house in the Limousin stole our hearts. We'd love you to continue to follow us, Joe and Steve Harris, and our two rather naughty dogs, Morse and Bright, on our incredible adventure to renovate our new home and attempt to integrate into French society. Bon courage!
Right, so today we're off to the woodyard to get some oak to make some new windows for the front of the house, because the two each side of the front door are starting to get a little bit rotten and falling apart. So yeah, go and get some oak and we'll see you later. Okay, so here we are, nearly an hour later, and we're at the woodyard. This is where they sell all the beautiful oak, and there's lots of it. I wish we could have it all.
The planks were enormous and only just fitted into the van.
So, now we've got the oak home, I'm just starting to draw some pencil lines on it to see how much stuff I can get out of one board each, but we've got to turn that into one of those, haven't we, darling?
You are. Once again, Steve started work, cutting those huge pieces of oak into shape. Like the staircase before, I must admit I've never even thought about how one would go about making an actual window. Well, now I know. It takes an awful lot of measuring, adjusting, re-measuring, the odd cup of tea, and then more measuring. I am just in absolute awe of how Steve seems to know exactly how to do these things. Each intricate piece has to be shaped, routed, sanded and pegged, but most of these pieces were just a practice for what would come later.
Right, just made up some test pieces out of the scrap bits of oak left over from cutting the slabs of oak up, ready for the windows to be made, the new windows for the front of the house. So this is a bit of trial and error at the moment. I think I've got this bottom joint worked out, but the glazing rails, I decided that I would have a tenon on the end of it, and a tenon is a bit that goes through, so you've got lots of surface area for glue and stuff. Also helps line it all up if you machine it properly. But because we've got all this fancy frou-frou detail on here, I've had to cut so far into the detail for it to marry up with the detail going the opposite direction. So I think what I'll probably do is I'll end up gluing it all, and a little bit of a cheat I suppose, but glue it all up, and then once it's all properly dry, just put a dowel through and then sand it from the outside, and you'll never even know. So that's the plan. So this is just one of the edging strips that came off one of the planks, and it's got some holes in it. Some holes that I made and some holes that big worms made. Anyway, that's where we are.
So this is where the wood has come out of the barn because it's been so damp the last few days. Well, last more than a few days. It actually began to get a bit wetter. Steve has got this amazing little gizmo that can tell how wet the wood is or how dry the wood is. So anyway, it's come in here into our little salon to hopefully dry out a bit more. So this is the wood for the windows. As the sun dips below the horizon and the wood is safely stored in the salon to dry, we wait. The moisture has to drop to between 10 and 12% to enable real work to begin. So we move on.
Right, so this little lamp, oil lantern that we found, or Joe found in a brocante when Jenny, our friend from Florida, was over. It's a little bit dusty. I have given it a little bit of a wipe over, so it looks quite clean, I think, already, but it's definitely needs a bit of fettling with some cleaner and a toothbrush. All this up here is very sooty. I've managed to get the old wick out that sits down in the oil in this reservoir down here, and it's got very old-fashioned writing on it. I can't find a date anywhere on it, but I think I saw something. Well, it's in cents, not in euros, so it's quite old. 2 cents this cost. So that's the old wick. This is the new wick. It's the right size. That came from Amazon, like everything does. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a clean and see if I can get it working.
For Valentine's Day, Steve bought me this light cascade. It is completely mesmerising, and we sat last evening on the sofa in the bedroom and just gazed up at the ceiling for about half an hour. This is it in the bathroom, so I'm going to bathe under the stars tonight. So, we know the farmers here in France have been protesting for better compensation for their produce, less bureaucracy, and protection against cheap imports. And it appears that the government here is now listening as they are applying controls on foreign food products in order to warrant fair competition, especially so that the regulations that are being applied to the French farmers are also respected by foreign products. Further promises have been made, so we hope that the protest will end soon and everyone will be happy. It may take some time, but at least things are moving in the right direction. The wood in the salon remains too wet to use at the moment, so window making has halted, for the time being. But I'm sure it won't be long. At least it means that Steve has managed to play golf again. It's all busy here in Haute-Vienne. It's a hard life. A bientôt!